Hello everyone, I'm Ben Coleman, one of your anchor hosts here for the Florida Aviation Network, coming to you at the 48th Annual FUN International Expo here at the Lakeland Linder International Airport. Used to be regional, used to be municipal, now it's international, and there's a lot of activity here at Lakeland. The Florida Aviation Network is a project of the National Aviation Safety Foundation, and we bring these productions to you with a group of volunteers that are completely dedicated to safety. That's our shtick. That's what we do. And in keeping with that doctrine, we like to have folks that know a little bit about the industry. And I can't think of anyone more fitting than the United States Air Force, because they keep our countries and our skies safe overhead. And if you don't appreciate that, you're living in the wrong country. You need to go somewhere else. Sorry about that. That was my political statement for the day. But we do have Colonel Joshua Fry.
Hi, Ben. Nice to meet you.
Colonel Fry, welcome to the National Aviation Safety Foundation, Florida Aviation Network. We're here to talk about what the U.S. Air Force does to promote aviation and promote aviation safety, primarily in the GA ranks. But where does it go from there? What do you do? What's your job, Colonel?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I love the Florida Aviation Network and what you do. Your mission is very important, and the way you guys do your mission is unique, but we need that. So what you guys provide is real important for the nation and for the general aviation pilot. And from the Air Force, we have a huge involvement in aviation, obviously, here in the country. It's not primarily what we do. But we're here and we share the skies. So what we do is coming here to Sun and Fun and things like this is part of the mission, and so we can continue to be safe and supporting what you guys do and supporting the general aviation pilot. But my job is I actually work with the Civil Air Patrol. That's my particular part of the 330,000 airmen that are on active duty. So
330,000 airmen
on active duty, yeah. Plus we've got Guard and Reserve as well. So.
And a lot of people, and I didn't really fully appreciate this, but the auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force, and that's the Civil Air Patrol.
That's right. That's right. So when you join,
is this by accident, or does somebody just wake up some day and say, we ought to sign these folks up?
So the Civil Air Patrol was created during World War II because the Air Force's focus was elsewhere, 2 oceans apart. In the Pacific and in the Atlantic, and then someone said, we got to make sure that something doesn't slip through, and that we're actually protected here at home as well. But as thin as the Air Force was spread out, they created the Civil Air Patrol, and so that folks at home with airplanes could use them to look for threats out at sea. Mm-hmm. And so that particular relationship between the Civil Air Patrol and the Air Force hasn't changed. The Civil Air Patrol still exists to do missions for the Air Force, so we can continue our focus overseas where threats are. So, and that's what they do today, right? If there's anything that the Air Force can give to the auxiliary for them to do, it helps the Air Force be more lethal, where we need to do that. And these are non-lethal missions that the Civil Air Patrol does, but they're just as important because we can't do our mission without, all the different parts. And so to this day, the Air Force continues to give what they call Air Force assigned missions to the Civil Air Patrol that they do, that the volunteers in the Civil Air Patrol do. And, of course, it benefits the country and it benefits the volunteer. And it benefits the Air Force, and so it makes us be able to focus, what we do in places where we need to do that. Yeah.
So now the Civil Air Patrol is that an organization that depends strictly on public donations, or how do we fund the Civil Air Patrol?
It's a great question. So unlike the Boy Scouts or the Knights of Columbus or whatever organization you may join, the Civil Air Patrol gets $50 million a year, and that's just the baseline funding from the U.S. Air Force. So that pays for the airplanes, for the maintenance of the airplanes, and then it also pays, if you're a member, it pays for you to get some flying hours. So as a member, you can pay and fly the airplane, which is awesome, and it's a great rate. But also some of your flying hours are paid for by the Air Force as well, and so that's quite a bit of money. You look at the Civil Air Patrol has 550 airplanes. And no volunteer organization is going to be able to do that with, think how many bake sales you'd have to have, you know, to have 550
That's a lot of
airplanes.
cookies.
That's a lot of cookies,
That's a lot
right?
of cookies.
No, they don't have to do that. The money comes from the Air Force, provides the money for the fleet, and then the fleet benefits the Air Force because they do Air Force missions with the volunteer pilot and the taxpayer-funded fleet.
And the emergency services aspect, what does the Air Force have to do with emergency services, and how does CAP fit into that?
Great question. So the burden to find people when they're missing, so search and rescue, you know, in the continental United States, that burden falls on the Air Force. And so the Air Force...
Is that just because it happens on U.S. soil?
Yes. Yeah. So that's it's an Air Force, you know, really it's a NORTHCOM thing, but that gets funneled down to the Air Force, you know, through NORTHCOM. Not important. But ultimately, there's an Air Force office. It's called the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center. It's in Florida. It's in Tyndall Air Force Base. And they decide, that someone in that office decides, hey, how are we going to approach this search and rescue mission? And a lot of times, that mission will go to the Civil Air Patrol. And, you know, in order to answer the call, the volunteer needs not just a plane that works, all right, it's been maintained, but they need gas in the plane. And the volunteer also needs proficiency, right? You can't just run off to an airplane if you're not proficient or current. And so that's why that money gets spent on those things, is so that the pilot is qualified to fly the mission. And not just fly the airplane, but also they have people on board that do the search and rescue. There's a lot that goes into that so that you can actually find this person and have a successful mission and do it safely without making the problem worse. But money also goes, you know, the plane needs to be able to fly and be properly maintained. And the volunteers do all that.
Well, it sounds like a massive coordinated effort. If you got communications, you got your ground pounders, you got to have folks on the ground.
That's true. And Civil Air Patrol members do that as well. So.
But how do you keep track of all of this? I mean, do they have, what type of procedures are used for the Civil Air Patrol?
Yeah, for the search and rescue? Yeah, so a lot of what they do, a lot of what the taxpayer funds is search and rescue exercises. And so all of the procedures that they do are taught, and most of the volunteers are really keen to learn these things because it's you think of all the hobbies you can have, you know, gardening or whatever it may be, going out and rescuing people is one that's a little bit more, you know, pretty rewarding.
That's pretty paramount.
Especially if you've got a loved one or something, you can think about if the call was going out to find your loved one. And so lots of volunteers in the Civil Air Patrol take this very seriously, and they have to, or you know, it'll either be an unsafe mission for the volunteer, or it'll be an unsuccessful mission. So the Air Force reaches out to the auxiliary. And, you know, and those people are very well trained. They spend a lot of time doing that when there's not an actual mission going on. They have many exercises throughout the year, and those are funded, you know, by the Air Force as well. And so that when the call goes out and it's a real world mission, everybody's ready to go.
Colonel Fry, I have some grandsons.
Okay.
If they have an interest in maybe joining one of the military branches and they want to fly, what would be a good path for them to take if they wanted to get kind of a leg up and an early start on their path to career? And how soon can they start this?
Well, I'll tell you this: when I learned to fly, I was in uniform, so I didn't have a single hour before I learned to fly. And let me tell you, that was rough. That's not the way to do it, because there's too much to learn, and the military, by design, tries to teach it all to you in a really short period of time. And so that if you can't learn it, then you know it's not going to work out. It's kind of a sink or swim.
They got to pass over you.
They do. So it's not for you, you know. But many of my colleagues had a lot of time coming into pilot training, and they did a lot better. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of them helped me in their spare time because they had it and I did not, and I needed help. If you know, and I talk to youth all the time, and I say, hey, if you want to be a pilot in the Air Force and you're serious about doing it, you need to join the Civil Air Patrol. Because there's a lot of flying opportunities, not just orientation flights where you get to go up and fly on the airplane. You know, Civil Air Patrol cadets get 5 orientation flights in the Civil Air Patrol airplanes. It's free. It's paid for by the taxpayer, right? Through the Air Force's grant to the Civil Air Patrol. So it's going to get you in the plane and familiar with flying. And you know, maybe you can find out at that point early, you know, that it's not for me. Or you find out at that point early that it is for me, you know, and I got to get more of this. Yeah. And if that's the case, then the Air Force is paying for many Civil Air Patrol cadets to go all the way through their private pilot's license. So it's like 50 hours of flying with an instructor in an airplane, sometimes a Civil Air Patrol airplane, and if that's not available, they'll actually find another airplane and another instructor. So this is happening. It's called the Cadet Wings program, and the Air Force has paid for 80 to 100 cadets already to get their private pilot's license, and it's been almost entirely free to the cadet and their family.
So if the Civil Air Patrol is to identify a cadet that is really dedicated and really getting into this, they're going to support that.
You bet.
They're going to build and foster this young person, man, woman, boy, girl. At that point, how long can they go in the Civil Air Patrol before getting kicked out? You're not a cadet anymore. You're too old.
All the way up to 21.
Okay.
So as a 21-year-old kid, a 20-year-old kid, it's not really a kid, is it? A 20-year-old adult.
At this point in my life, that's a kid. That's a baby.
A 20-year-old adult can still be a cadet and can still be in this program. So it's really impressive.
So if I was to come in at, say, age 12 and start as a cadet and go through the program, learn the discipline, learn the procedures, the policies, learn your regs, get all your manuals, get your uniform, how to do things the proper way, the Air Force way, and I come out the other end, I'm 21 years old now, and I've been able to get my private pilot license, and I want to go fly for the Air Force. What are my chances?
Well, at 21 years old, you're probably in college or maybe even graduated college by then. So your best chance to be an Air Force pilot is to go to one of the commissioning colleges. And so we've got the Air Force Academy. They produce the most pilots for the Air Force.
You mean I could go to the Academy?
You bet. And as a matter of fact, the Academy's a difficult school to get into. You had lots of interviews and congressional appointments that have to be sought and gained before you can go there. And I've got friends that sit on these interview boards that interview youth looking to go to the Air Force Academy. And they always say, when the Civil Air Patrol cadet comes, they just look like they know, like they're going to be more successful there. And why wouldn't they, right? I mean, the Air Force Academy programs are part of the preparatory programs that the Civil Air Patrol uses in their cadet programs. As a matter of fact, the Air Force Academy physical fitness exam is the same physical fitness exam that you take as a cadet to become, a higher-ranking cadet. So if you want to go to the Air Force Academy, if you want to be a pilot, then the Air Force Academy is the institution that produces the most pilots. And if you want to go to the Air Force Academy, then the Civil Air Patrol is almost perfectly designed, as a pipeline to get you, that appointment so that you can go there. Of course, if you don't want to go to the Academy, you can go to ROTC, which is what I did, and I got a pilot slot through that. And so, you're going to want to go to a college where that's offered. You're going to take that class, and if it's for you, you're going to complete that class and earn a pilot slot, and then you're going to graduate and have a job as a student pilot in the Air Force, which is, again, what I do. We do that. That's 1,000 pilots a year that get that.
And do we need them?
We need them. We need them. One of the problems with that the Air Force is having is the same problem that airlines are having, academies are having. If it's in aviation, there's just not enough pilots.
It's attrition.
It's
just
yeah.
We're losing them, and we're not putting them back in as fast as we're losing them.
Yeah. So one of the things we've got to do is fix that. And one of the problems with fixing that is that the fix is way over here. But the need is here, so it doesn't mean you can ignore this, though. And so, the Air Force, by providing these funds to the Civil Air Patrol to not just get people interested in aviation through the education programs, but to also get cadets in the air through the orientation programs, and also get cadets their wings through the Cadet Wings programs, is designed to fix the problem of not having enough pilots. So.
Well, and it seems like it's been going on long enough that it's got some polish. And you can take somebody that's polished and put them in a situation where you got a polished candidate and you got a rough candidate. I'm going to go with the polished candidate.
Well, I'll tell you, I was the rough candidate, but I made it.
Well, but you polished up pretty good.
Well, it's one of those things. It's a training program, so I think they do call it pilot trainings. There's a lot of learning that takes place. It's just that some people have more learning to do than others.
And it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody, and there's people that don't make it. But if you're a cadet, you can find out early that it's something you want to do. And because for some people, they don't want to do it, and they don't know that until you get in an airplane. And the Civil Air Patrol can offer young people that opportunity. And then if it is for you, they can offer you the opportunity to continue and get more flights and then to get training. And no joke, if you finish your training, the cadet wings training, and you're now a private pilot, but you're still a cadet, the Air Force will pay for you to continue flying just so you don't forget what you've learned. So that's an absolutely incredible opportunity.
And Colonel Fry, flying is one thing. When sometimes we always, there's a little adage going around about, a little quip about the pilot and the scarf and the flying, but it's the grease-stained person with a wrench in their hand and that keeps it there.
Yeah.
There's more to aviation than just flying the aircraft.
You bet.
Is there anything that a Civil Air Patrol does to offer cadets other aspects of aviation?
You bet.
To stay involved with?
Yeah. So in every cadet squadron, which we call them, there's a curriculum for the cadets to learn as they progress through the ranks, and it's holistic, it's comprehensive, it covers all assets of aviation and the Air Force and history of aviation and history of the Air Force and things like that. But then in the summertime, there are these encampments that the cadets can go to and need to go to if they want to continue to advance in their ranks. But each one of those summer camps has its own sort of theme, and that theme for many of them is aviation maintenance and different facets. So there's almost something for everyone there during the summer, which is kind of one of the a really important part of the cadet advancement is to go to an encampment in the summer. And like I said, there's these encampments all over the country that have the different themes and things like that. Many of them are powered flying academies, glider academies. There's a maintenance academy. It's actually in Kansas at the Textron facilities where the cadets get to go. That's a really cool opportunity there if you're into maintenance, because there's not enough maintainers either in aviation. So.
Well, it's maintenance, operations, logistics. I mean, I can just imagine some of the logistical nightmares of trying to get all of this from here to there and get it set up and working properly. Right.
And so one of the things about aviation is it's not for everybody, but when there's not enough maintainers and pilots, we are all going to suffer, right? First of all, they're going to get paid more money, which is happening in a lot of fields right now. But if you're 12, 13 years old right now, looking at the salaries of maintainers and pilots, it's going to go up, right? It's just a fact of it's just math. But it's also a crisis because we don't have enough of them. And one of the things that makes it a crisis is that it's really hard for someone to get into, right? You talk about equestrian or hockey, right? There's a huge payment, to get into that hobby. And a lot of parents go, hey, I'd love for you to play hockey, but it's not going to happen, right? And so one of the things that the Civil Air Patrol is doing is giving more people the opportunity to do it, that want to do it, right? It's not for everybody, but we just don't have the luxury of looking at the youth in this country and having one that goes, this is for me, I want to do this, but I can't afford it, so I'm going to find something else to do. We got to minimize that, because while it's not for everybody, we depend on this network of pilots and pilot students and all this to continue to happen, and maintenance maintainer students and people to continue to study that, because we need it now so that we can have it going into the future, like I said, and that the Air Force is seeing that problem, and we're trying to solve that through the Civil Air Patrol. And of course, the Civil Air Patrol is got lots of volunteers that are doing a great job solving that problem. But we don't have the luxury, of as a nation, of seeing kids that want to do this and just saying, well, good luck. It's real expensive. I hope you find the money somewhere. We don't want to do that anymore. So we got to solve that problem.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a good job of front loading a very, very large organization, keeping our skies safe.
Right.
And not only for us, but pretty much for the world. Air Force kind of goes all over the place.
We do.
But our primary focus, of course, is keeping the United States safe. Colonel, we're gonna start wrapping this up.
Okay.
But I do want you to leave us with one thing that I haven't gotten out of this. Your flying capabilities.
Oh.
What have you been flying?
Okay, well, I joined the Air Force in 2003. I went to pilot training, and then I flew the KC-135 for 7 years. I flew it all over the world. I was actually stationed in North Dakota for a bit, and then I got stationed in England and flew there. And it's been awesome. I've been to 50 states. You know, I don't know how many countries I've been to, but it's been quite a bit. And, now, actually, after I went to Mildenhall, I went and flew in Canada with the Canadian Air Force. I was an exchange pilot, and I flew King Airs up there in Manitoba. So that was kind of fun. And then, but now I fly with the Civil Air Patrol. So my job is to make sure that they got what they need to do our missions, including the money, and then they continue to wear the uniform in a way that represents us well, which, they wear a lot of those cadets wear the uniform better than many of the active duty people.
I can imagine.
They take it very seriously. So it's not a problem we have a lot. But now I fly the Civil Air Patrol airplanes and as part of the job. So.
Well, now that I know a lot more about the interface between the auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force and know that you are a tanker pilot,
yeah,
it's cool. Because a lot of folks, you future cadets out there may not know the KC-135 is the gas tank in the sky.
You bet. Yeah, it's the best one. It's the one that gets all the work. So.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing that with us today, Colonel.
My pleasure.
And we're going to wrap this one up, and a very, very informative session here. Go to Civil Air Patrol. Just Google Civil Air Patrol, and any search engine that you're using you're going to funnel your way through to the national program. Look into it. Sign up. Join. Come on. We can do it. Ben Coleman, your anchor host here for the Florida Aviation Network. We'll see you next interview.